My wife and I have been together for 8 years. Married the last 5. We met in college. We have both been working hard trying to get ahead in our careers and incomes. Within a few months of our marriage, my wife started gaining weight. She had been overweight before college. She had told me how she felt inferior to other women when she was overweight and never wanted to be there again. 3 years into our marriage, she was 70 pounds overweight. This affected her self-esteem and our intimate relationship. I maintained my weight by going to the gym on a regular basis. I always encouraged my wife to attend with me, but she always declined. She didn't like the hardcore weightlifters gym I attended. When she hit 75 pounds plus, she decided to start going to a gym. She got a membership at another more mainstream gym that catered more to women. The gym had many more treadmills and bikes. They also had early morning aerobic classes, which my wife attended before work. After a year, my wife lost all her weight and more. My wife's self-esteem was back, and our intimate relationship improved. After 6 more months, my wife was looking better than ever. She was now also getting a fake tan, letting her hair grow out, and dressing nicer. She looked fantastic. I looked forward to our intimate moments more than ever. Unfortunately, our intimate relationship began to dwindle. After a few months, almost nothing. She told me she was too tired from her workouts and encouraged me to take care of myself. The first time she told me this, I felt like she had spit on me. Now being in the proverbial between a rock and a hard place. The rock being trusting relationship and the hard place being, is she cheating? Not being the type of person that sits around hoping for the best. Forget the rock. If I am wrong, I will fess up and have to kiss her ass for a few months. Whereas doing nothing lets self-doubt into my life. Life is hard enough already. I put a voice-activated recorder in the lining of her purse and turned on location tracking on her phone. I found she was meeting someone special on Tuesday and Friday mornings. She was spending intimate time with a trainer in the gym on those days, at his apartment. His name was Jim. He was one of those health nuts, that every moment of his life was dedicated to looking good and being as fit as he possibly could. His social media was filled with pictures of himself posing, working out, or participating in some type of race. I'm not sure how I handled the next 3 weeks. I was in a mental fog of despair, angry one moment and depressed the next. I began working out longer in the morning and added a routine after work. I felt inadequate and felt improving my looks would win my wife back. I cleaned up and put on more muscle, but my wife was in her own world. She didn't notice how ripped I had become. She didn't even notice how depressed I was when I was at my lowest. Screw her. Financially, divorce would be easy. We rented an apartment. We had some money in our joint checking account. Our cars cost about the same and were about the same age. Our real savings was in her 401k savings. My work did not offer a 401k. Now for the revenge. I know. Take the moral high road and don't waste your energy on anything that doesn't improve your own life. Don't look backwards, move forward with your life. Nope. I was going to get some personal satisfaction and burn the situation down. I considered this to be my personal therapy to never look back, once I was finished. My plan was simple. Their fitness brought them together. I would take that away from them. Do not let her profit from her betrayal. Loverboy had an apartment on the first floor that faced a pool area. I bought a camera that you screwed into a light fixture, then screwed the light bulb into the camera. I pointed the camera at the Loverboy's front door. What a surprise. Loverboy was meeting with 3 other women from the gym, all married. They didn't even bother to take off their wedding rings. I also learned that Loverboy didn't lock his door when he went to the pool, and a neighbor would come by now and then to invite him back to her apartment. They were together for around an hour. So during one of his visits to her apartment, I visited his apartment and put cameras in every room. Luckily for me, he had those USB phone power adapters in every room. I replaced them with USB power adapters with motion-activated hidden cameras. I also connected them to my home computer so they would continually stream. I also took pictures of everything in his apartment. So I watched a couple of weeks of videos I have to admit, he was meeting with some attractive women from the gym. My wife is a very attractive woman, but two of the other women were more attractive, even though they were a bit older. The third woman was my wife's age, but about 20 pounds overweight. Their encounters followed a predictable pattern of intimacy and interaction. He did have a confident demeanor, but by no means was he extraordinary. All three women were paying for his services. It looked like $100 each from the attractive woman and $200 for the overweight woman. My wife wasn't paying for anything, she was trading something with him. I later found substances, and the bottle identified them as human growth hormones. Loverboy was taking human growth hormones and some performance-enhancing substances. The neighbor came by occasionally on the weekends to his apartment. They would spend time together. So, I told my wife I had a business trip to LA. I then rented a car and went down to Tijuana. I hired a professional for the day. My plan was to get her to get multiple prescriptions from doctors for birth control pills. When I told her what I wanted, she told me she knew a better way. She knew a pharmacist that would give her as much as she wanted. She mentioned all the girls used him for various medications. I asked if he would be able to provide it in a liquid form for a syringe. She said yes, but it was probably intended for animals. She called him on her phone and set it up. I drove her to his pharmacy. She introduced us. I told him what I needed, paid him, and we left. I gave her 4 times what she said she made in a day. And yes, I did get a service from her. Remember, I hadn't been intimate with anyone for almost a year. Lover injected himself every few days with a hidden stash of substances. Using his spare house key I had found during my first visit, I removed all the testosterone from his vials and replaced it with estrogen. I then went home and replaced all the human growth hormones my wife had with testosterone. Almost 2 months later, my wife began showing the effects first. Her muscles began to get noticeably bigger, and she began to lose her temper. Her skin also began to break out more easily. I suggested she try a different tanning spray. Loverboy began to look noticeably softer. I saw him looking upset after weighing himself on his bathroom scale. During my wife's weekly visits, she was like a different person. He started taking additional substances to maintain his performance. My wife first voiced her concerns that the human growth hormone he was giving her was different or in a greater dosage than before. He reassured her that was not the case. Loverboy, noticing that he was changing, increased his injections. 4 months into Loverboy's treatment, he lost all his connections, including my wife. He couldn't maintain his previous lifestyle and seemed to have lost interest. My wife couldn't stop herself from angry outbursts, followed by massive mood swings. She would then be mad at herself for losing control, followed by crying. Loverboy lost his job at the gym when he broke down crying in front of everyone. Someone had teased him about his appearance. From what a friend told me, he tried to cry on my wife's shoulder, and she wouldn't let him. When he tried again, begging her, she lost her temper and punched him in the stomach. He actually laid on the floor, holding his stomach, crying. My wife stood over him, taunting him, calling him names. She was also kicked out of the gym. Neither Loverboy nor my wife went to the doctor to get tested. I assumed they had been taking too many illegal substances to want to hear what a doctor had to say. Loverboy started developing physical changes and was losing his hair. He finally went to a doctor. Blood tests revealed he had hormonal imbalances in his body. They suspected his thyroid and ended up surgically removing it. He will be on treatment for the rest of his life. As for my wife, she joined another gym but just wasn't trying as hard, seemed to have lost her motivation, her connection. She gained all the weight back, started losing her hair, and got a skin condition over her whole back, chest, rear, thighs, and face. Now she was begging me for intimacy. I told her I would not be intimate with her until I knew that her condition was not contagious. Because of her condition, I hadn't slept in the same bed with her in months. My wife finally went to a doctor. By now, the substances had worn off. The doctor scheduled my wife for an allergist and gave her some pills to help with her depression. My wife was hitting rock bottom emotionally. The next morning, there was an envelope on the front seat of my wife's car. Inside was a voice player, 2 pictures, and a note. The first picture was of my wife in a compromising situation with Jim. The second showed my wife with a substance. The drug label was clearly visible on the container, on the table next to her. The letter said, "I know you are having an intimate relationship with Jim. I have video and voice recordings. I will leave you instructions to leave me $10,000 in the 20s, or I will go to your husband with the evidence and the authorities with the illegal substance evidence. I will contact you later on how to get me the money." My wife listened to the tape in our driveway as I peeked out at her. She heard the sound of her and Jim's interaction. There was also a piece of conversation where my wife was telling Jim what a loser I was. I could see she was in shock when she heard the tape. The shock was then replaced with anger. My wife started her car and sped off. I watched her on the GPS. She was headed straight to Jim's apartment. Watching the pool camera, I saw her beating on Jim's door. When he opened the door, she jumped on him and started beating him. Before he could get her off and calm down, she had injured his face badly and pulled a large chunk of his hair out. He didn't have much hair left to lose. From the recorders in his apartment. Jim: "What in the hell is wrong with you?" Wife: "You're trying to blackmail me, you worthless piece." Jim: "I'm trying to what?" Wife: "Blackmail me, or you will tell my husband and tell the cops about my substance use." Jim: "Why in the hell would I do that? I have more to lose than you if it came out." Wife: "Jerk! You don't have a wife to lose." Jim: "The substances! I could go to jail for the substances." My wife stopped talking and held out the letter. Jim read the letter and said, "Damn. Sorry, this is happening to you, but it is not me. In fact, I was just packing the last of my things. I am moving back in with my mom and dad till I can find a job and get healthy again." He handed her the letter. My wife finally noticed most of Jim's things were gone or in boxes. She then noticed that Jim had 2 black eyes and a cast from his right knee down. My wife: "What the hell happened to you?" Jim: "Your husband is not the only husband upset with me." My wife glared at Jim. "What do you mean?" Jim: "There are 3 other wives who keep confronting me." My wife screamed, "You were with 3 other women while you were with me." Jim said, "I'm sorry," and started to cry. Wrong answer. My wife grabbed his t-shirt and punched him hard, breaking his nose. Jim fell backwards onto his rear, leaving my wife looking down at him, still holding his shredded t-shirt in her hand. Wife: "I told you you were worthless. If I find out you have anything to do with this, I am going to harm you." Jim sat on the floor crying as my wife stormed out the door. That night after work, I could tell my wife was agitated. I didn't say a word. I left another letter in her car telling her to put the money into a gym bag and leave it in the trunk of her car when she was at the gym that day. When she came out from the gym, the bag was gone, and in its place was a cell phone. Using a voice disguising device, I called my wife the next day and told her the $10,000 was just a test. I would leave her alone if she would cash out her 401k and give it to me. She lost her temper and told me she would never do that. I told her thanks for the $10,000 and hoped she enjoyed her divorce, jail time, and her relatives seeing what an unfaithful woman she was. After trying to negotiate with me, I sent her one of the videos. She finally gave in. It took a month for her to get the money out. I told her to leave the money in her husband's trunk, and that I would retrieve the money while he was at the gym that evening. I reassured her she would never hear from me again, especially since she was out of money. By her GPS, I saw she was trailing me. I saw she parked down the street to watch my car. I bought a case of protein powder, gave the trainer my car keys, and asked him to put it into the trunk of my car. While he did it, I went and worked out. When I got back from the gym that evening, I saw her sneak outside and look in my trunk. The box of protein was there, but the money was gone. A few days later, I took her to a very expensive restaurant for our anniversary. A jacket and tie are required for the men and dresses for the women. During drinks, I served her the divorce papers with pictures from her affair. Her first question was, "How did you get these?" I told her I had found them on my front seat after going to the gym. She started crying, told me she loved me, and that we could work through this. I told her the evidence showed she had been meeting with him for almost a year. I had also heard some of the horrible things she had said about me. I had even heard her planning on taking all our money and leaving with him. She cried and told me she would be the best wife a husband could want. I told her calmly, "What? That's what got us into all this mess. You lost weight and improved your attitude, and what did you do with it? You betrayed me. Now you are back to being a depressed person, and I'm supposed to take you back?" I paused for a few moments, staring at her. "You're just a disappointment." She sat frozen as my words bounced around inside her head. She recognized them but couldn't quite remember where she had heard them before. Then there it was, the recognition in her eyes. As expected, she blew up big. She screamed at the top of her voice, "You son of a blip, I am going to kill you," as she threw her drink at me. Pushing away from the table, wiping my face, I accidentally pushed the table into her stomach. She took this as an insult. She picked up her salad and threw it at me. She then grabbed a steak knife and leaped over the table trying to harm me. The tip of the knife cut through my jacket. By now I was backpedaling fast and she was coming after me. Luckily, she did the classic overhand stab and I was able to grab her arm. Two waiters then helped me to wrestle her to the ground as she screamed out how she was going to kill me. We managed to get the knife away and her onto her stomach on the floor. The two waiters sat on her back until the police arrived. When the police arrived, she was still seething. When the waiters got off her back, she surprised everyone by jumping up and trying to stab me again with a knife that she had been laying on. The police tasered her, put her into handcuffs, and then took her away. When the police questioned me, I briefly explained I had served her divorce papers for adultery. I told them I started recording everything after she started yelling at me. I did not tell them I started it right after my disappointment remark. After watching the video, they asked me to send them a copy, then they left. The video evidence of the restaurant fight and her attempt to harm me got her some jail time. That, plus her evidence of adultery, got me a favorable split during the divorce. In fact, I got all the cash and all of the assets except her car. Since my wife had stolen a large portion of our marital assets, her 401k, the judge told my wife he believed the missing money, the $10,000 and the 401k, were in her possession or in her lover's possession. Either way, she was responsible for paying me back my owed share. She declared vehemently that she did not have the money and her blackmail story didn't fly at all. She even tried to accuse me of orchestrating it, but she only had accusations. She had to pay me alimony for 5 years to make up the difference from her theft. As for me, I had a great weekend in Las Vegas and miraculously won almost as much as my wife had stolen from me. After paying the tax on $10,000 plus the 401k amount, I was able to reinvest the money long-term in my own retirement fund. With my salary ever improving and the 5 years of alimony, I was able to buy my own condo and a couple of really nice cars. And to this day, I wonder why people are so stupid as to betray the trust of the person they love and trust the most, and then expect that person not to betray their trust in return. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Kevin Miller's hands were black with grease when he first noticed something was wrong. Not with the '97 Honda Civic on his lift. He'd already diagnosed that problem as a worn CV joint, but with his marriage. Standing in his shop at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, wiping his hands on an already filthy rag, he stared at his phone screen. Melissa's text was brief. Don't wait up. Girls' night again. Again. That made it twice this week, and it was only Tuesday. He remembered when she used to bring him lunch at the shop, back when they were first married. She'd show up in her sundress with a brown bag from the deli down the street, not caring that the other mechanics would whistle and make jokes after she left. "That's my grease monkey," she'd say, kissing him despite the oil stains on his coveralls. Now she flinched when he touched her with those same hands, as if the honest dirt of hard work was something contagious. The shop was quiet now, his employees gone home to their families. Kevin lowered the Civic and made notes on the work order, but his mind kept drifting to the changes. When had Melissa started buying those expensive blouses? When had she traded her vanilla body spray for that sharp floral perfume that made his nose itch? The credit card statements showed charges at Nordstrom, Sephora, places she used to mock as overpriced. "You're overthinking it," he muttered to himself, locking up the shop. The March air was cold against his face as he walked to his truck. Maybe she was just trying to fit in better at her marketing firm. Richardson and Associates had a certain image to maintain, she'd explained. Her boss, David, was particular about professional presentation. At home, the house felt empty, despite being full of furniture. Kevin microwaved leftover meatloaf and ate standing at the kitchen counter, looking at their wedding photo on the wall. 12 years ago, they'd been so sure. He'd promised to take care of her, and she'd promised to love him as he was, a simple man who fixed things with his hands. When Melissa came home at 11:30, Kevin was in bed but not asleep. She moved through the darkness, bumping into the dresser and giggling softly. The smell of wine was obvious, but underneath it was something else. Cologne. "Men's cologne. Fun night?" he asked, and she jumped. "Jesus, Kevin, I thought you were asleep," she replied, turning on the bathroom light, squinting. Her lipstick was gone, though she'd left the house wearing it. "Sarah had us try this new wine bar. You'd hate it. All fancy and overpriced." "I might have liked it," he suggested quietly. She snorted, pulling off her heels. "Please. Last time I tried to take you somewhere nice, you complained about the portion sizes for 20 minutes. That had been 2 years ago." He'd made one joke about the tiny lamb chops. 3 days later, Kevin tried again. He stopped at the florist on the way home, buying the yellow roses she used to love. When he walked in with them, Melissa was at the kitchen table, organizing her purse. She glanced up, saw the flowers, and her expression was almost annoyed before she caught herself. "Oh, those are nice. What's the occasion?" she asked flatly. "No occasion. Just thought—" He stopped as something fell from her purse. A small blue box, unmistakable. Condoms. They hadn't used protection in 5 years, not since they'd started talking about kids. The talks that never went anywhere because she was always not ready yet. Melissa's hand shot out, snatching the box. "They're not mine," she said quickly. "Sarah asked me to buy them. She's seeing someone new and was embarrassed." The lie came so smoothly that Kevin knew she'd rehearsed it. "Sarah's 43 and divorced," Kevin said slowly. "Why would she be embarrassed about buying condoms?" "I don't know, Kevin," she snapped back. "Maybe because this town is small and judgmental? God, not everything is a conspiracy." She stormed upstairs, leaving the roses on the counter. That night, Kevin lay awake listening to Melissa's breathing. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, once, twice, 3 times. She grabbed it quickly, mumbling, "Sorry, work emergency." But Kevin had seen the contact name in the brief moment the screen lit up. D. Not David, not boss, just D. His stomach turned cold as puzzle pieces clicked together. The new clothes, the increased girls' nights, the cologne, the condoms, the mysterious D texting his wife at midnight. Kevin Miller had spent 15 years diagnosing problems in machines, finding the subtle symptoms that pointed to bigger issues. A strange noise here, an odd vibration there. He'd built his reputation on being thorough, methodical, never jumping to conclusions without evidence. But lying there in the dark, his wife's phone finally silent, Kevin knew with the same certainty he knew a blown head gasket from a cracked block. Something in his marriage was catastrophically broken, and this time, he wasn't sure it could be fixed. The rusty anchor hadn't changed since high school. Same sticky floors, same broken neon sign, same bartender who'd been old 20 years ago and now seemed preserved in alcohol and cigarette smoke. Kevin chose it specifically because Melissa would never come here. Her crowd drank craft cocktails at places with Edison bulbs and exposed brick. Tommy Rodriguez was already waiting in a back booth, looking exactly like what he was, ex-military turned private security. They'd played football together senior year, back when Kevin thought he might get a scholarship. That was before his dad's heart attack, before Kevin took over the shop at 19. "You look like shit," Tommy said, pushing a beer across the scarred table. "Thanks. Real helpful," Kevin replied, taking a long pull from the bottle. "I need a favor." Tommy leaned back, studying him. "This about Melissa?" "How'd you know?" Kevin asked, surprised. "Brother, everyone knows," Tommy answered grimly. "She's been all over town with that boss of hers. Sarah saw them at that Italian place on Madison last week. The hostess said they had a reservation under Richardson." Kevin's grip tightened on the bottle. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Would you have believed it?" Tommy responded. "Nobody wants to be the messenger who gets shot." He reached into his jacket, pulling out something that looked like a thick pen. Voice-activated recorder. 12-hour battery. Picks up everything within 20 feet. "Where are you thinking of putting it?" "I don't know if I can do this," Kevin admitted. "Then don't," Tommy said simply. "But from where I'm sitting, you got two choices. You can confront her with no proof and watch her lie to your face, maybe convince you you're crazy, or you can get proof and know for sure." Tommy slid the device across the table. Sometimes the truth hurts less than the wondering. Kevin stared at the recorder. Such a small thing to blow up a marriage. "Behind the picture frame," he said finally. "The one on the mantel, she never moves." 3 days passed like torture. Kevin went through the motions, opening the shop, changing oil, rotating tires, replacing brake pads. His hands stayed busy, but his mind raced. Every time his phone rang, he expected it to be Melissa saying she knew about the recorder. But she remained oblivious, cold and distant as January. Thursday was supposed to be inventory day. Kevin always stayed late, checking parts and placing orders. But at 4 p.m., he decided to surprise Melissa. He'd picked up her favorite Chinese food, the place that always got the orange chicken exactly right. Maybe they could talk, really talk, work through whatever was making her pull away. The BMW parked across from his house was new, black, expensive. The kind of car that screamed executive compensation package. Kevin's truck rolled to a stop 3 houses down, his heart hammering as he recognized the Richardson and Associates parking sticker on the windshield. Through his living room window, 2 shadows moved on the couch, close, too close. Kevin's hands shook as he pulled out his phone, calling Tommy instead of storming inside. His voice came out strangled. "I need you to get that device tomorrow." "Kev? What?" Tommy started. "Just get it. And I think I'm going to need a real investigator. Someone who does this for a living," Kevin interrupted, then hung up. He drove back to the shop and sat in his office until midnight, staring at nothing. The Chinese food went cold on his desk. When he finally went home, Melissa was asleep, or pretending to be. The living room smelled wrong, that same cologne from the other night, mixed with something else. Intimacy. His house smelled like intimacy and another man's cologne. Friday evening, Kevin waited until Melissa went to her yoga class, or wherever she actually went, before meeting Tommy in his garage. Tommy handed him the recorder and a business card. "Maria Santos, best PI in the state. Discreet, thorough, and she doesn't judge." Kevin plugged the recorder into his laptop with trembling fingers. At first, just silence. Then Melissa's voice, bright and laughing in a way he hadn't heard in months. "God, David, you're terrible!" She giggled. "No, he won't be home for hours. He's always at that stupid shop until 8 at least." David Richardson's voice responded, smooth and confident. "I don't know how you stand it. Coming home to Captain Grease stain every night? He comes home literally covered in oil," Melissa continued. "It's under his fingernails and his hair. I have to wash the sheets twice a week just to get the smell out. Last week, he tried to be romantic, brought me grocery store flowers. Like I'm some small-town housewife who gets excited about carnations from Kroger." "You deserve better, baby," David said soothingly. "I have better." "I have you?" she replied, and sounds of kissing followed. "The poor bastard has no idea I've been screwing you for 6 months. He's too stupid to figure it out. Still thinks I'm at book club when I'm at your apartment." David laughed. "Book club? That's brilliant. My wife thinks I'm working late on the Gavin account. How is the suburban prison?" Janet still boring you to tears? Melissa asked mockingly. Please, he responded with disdain. She's gotten so frumpy since the kids. At least your grease monkey stays in shape. Don't call him that, she said, then paused. Actually, you know what? Call him whatever you want. 3 more months and I'll have enough saved to leave him. You're still going to promote me to senior account manager, right? Already have the paperwork ready, David assured her. Can't have my future ex-wife's future ex-husband's wife struggling financially. More laughter. More sounds Kevin wished he could unhear. He played the recording 3 times, each word a nail in the coffin of his marriage. 6 months. She'd been cheating for 6 months while he'd been trying to figure out what was wrong for only the past few weeks. Kevin opened a fresh notebook, the kind he used for tracking car repairs. At the top of the first page, he wrote, David Richardson, 1247 Oak Drive. Then, underneath, married to Janet Richardson. 2 kids, Emma, 14, and Michael, 11. His hand was perfectly steady as he continued writing, CEO Richardson and Associates. LinkedIn shows 400-plus employees. Company handbook prohibits supervisor-subordinate relationships. Kevin looked at his hands, stained with oil that never quite washed clean, calloused from honest work. Melissa was right about one thing. He was just a mechanic. But mechanics knew how to take things apart piece by piece. And more importantly, they knew exactly which bolt to loosen to make the whole engine destroy itself. Maria Santos didn't look like a private investigator. Short, mid-40s, wearing mom jeans and a cardigan, she could have been picking kids up from soccer practice. Which, Kevin learned, was exactly the point. Nobody suspects the suburban mom, she explained, spreading photos across Kevin's desk at the shop. I can sit outside a Starbucks for 3 hours and everyone assumes I'm waiting for my teenager. The photos were damning. Melissa and David entering the Marriott downtown at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday when she was supposedly at a client meeting, his hand on her lower back as they walked into his apartment building. The 2 of them kissing in his BMW parked behind Melissa's office. This is 2 weeks of surveillance, Maria continued, pulling out a folder. Hotel receipts charged to his company card. They have a regular room, 314. The desk clerk says they're there every Tuesday and Thursday like clockwork. Kevin studied each photo, each receipt. His wife had become a stranger. What about the money? He asked. Ah, that's where it gets interesting, she replied, opening her laptop. Small withdrawals from your joint account? Never more than $200 at a time, but it adds up. $3,400 in the last 4 months. Look at this. She pulled up credit card statements. Charges at La Perla, agent provocateur. That's not Target lingerie, Mr. Miller. That's the kind of stuff that costs more than most people's car payments. I've never seen any of it, Kevin said quietly. I'm sure David has. Maria responded gently but matter-of-factly. There's more. She's been using her position at the company to funnel clients to David specifically. They're working together to inflate her numbers so her promotion looks justified. It's borderline fraud. Kevin took detailed notes, his mechanical mind cataloging every piece of evidence. How many copies can you make of all this? As many as you need, she answered. You planning something? My anniversary is in 2 weeks. March 15th, he stated simply. Maria studied him over her reading glasses. You know, most men in your position would have already confronted her. Or done something stupid. I'm not most men, Kevin replied firmly. I fix problems for a living. You can't fix something properly if you don't understand exactly how it broke. Over the next week, Kevin became obsessed with David Richardson. The man's LinkedIn was a masterpiece of corporate buzzwords. Synergistic leader passionate about driving stakeholder value through innovative market solutions. His Facebook showed the perfect family, Janet pretty in that tired suburban mom way, the kids in their private school uniforms, family vacations to Disney and Cabo. David served on the Chamber of Commerce, sponsored a Little League team, posted Bible verses every Sunday. His latest post was about the sanctity of marriage and family values in modern America. Kevin screenshot everything. The company handbook was publicly available on Richardson & Associates' website. Page 47, Section 3.2, Romantic or sexual relationships between supervisors and subordinates are strictly prohibited and will result in immediate termination of both parties. Kevin made copies at the shop after hours, organizing everything into manila envelopes. One for Janet Richardson, with photos of her husband entering hotels with Melissa. One for the HR director at Richardson and Associates, complete with receipts showing misuse of company funds. One for Melissa's parents, who still thought their daughter was the perfect Christian wife. Envelopes for her book club friends, her college roommate, her sister in California. Each envelope contained a typed letter. Simple and factual. I thought you should know the truth about Melissa Miller, née Collins, and David Richardson. The enclosed evidence documents their 6-month affair, conducted during work hours and funded partially through company resources. I'm providing this information because I believe people deserve to know who they're trusting with their friendship, their business, and their families. No emotion, no pleas for sympathy, just facts. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal. When Melissa complained about the smell of oil on his clothes, Kevin apologized and promised a shower at the shop. When she rolled her eyes at his suggestion of watching a movie together, he didn't push. When she announced another girls' night, he simply nodded and said, "Have fun." But he noticed everything now. The way she smiled at her phone, the new password on her laptop, the birth control pills hidden in her tampon box, even though she'd told him 6 months ago she'd stopped taking them so they could try for a baby. 3 days before the anniversary, Kevin was organizing the evidence packets when Melissa came into his home office, really just a corner of the basement where he kept shop paperwork. "What's all this?" she asked, seeing the envelopes. "Parts invoices," Kevin replied smoothly. "New supplier needs everything in hard copy. Ancient system, but their prices are 30% lower." She wrinkled her nose at the oil-stained paperwork on his desk. "God, can't you keep that stuff at the shop?" "Sorry, I'll clean it up," he responded apologetically. She was already heading back upstairs. "Oh, for our anniversary, let's just do something simple. Order pizza, watch Netflix. I'm exhausted from this quarter's campaigns," she called back. "Whatever you want," Kevin answered. "It's your day, too." That night, Melissa took a call during dinner. She stepped onto the back porch, but Kevin could see her through the window. She was laughing, that bright, animated laugh she used to save for him. Her free hand gestured painted the air as she talked, probably to David, probably about him. Kevin looked at the sealed envelopes stacked in his desk drawer. Tomorrow they'd go in the mail, timed to arrive March 15th by 10 a.m. His lawyer had already prepared the divorce papers, already filed them with the court. His new bank account was set up. The locks would be changed while Melissa was at work. As Melissa laughed outside in the cold March air, Kevin felt something shift inside him. The pain was still there, might always be there, but it had crystallized into something harder, sharper, something useful. He'd spent 12 years trying to make Melissa happy. In 48 hours, he'd succeed in a different way. He'd make her infamous. Everyone in their town would know exactly who Melissa Miller really was. And David Richardson would learn that some mistakes couldn't be fixed with corporate buzzwords and a firm handshake. Kevin went back to addressing envelopes, his hands steady and sure. Outside, Melissa's laughter finally stopped. She'd find out soon enough what it was like when the joke was on her. March 15th dawned gray and drizzling, the kind of persistent rain that made everything smell like wet earth and regret. Kevin called Mike at the shop, told him he was taking the day off for his anniversary. 12 years, Mike had said. "That's something special, boss." Kevin had agreed without irony. The envelopes had gone out yesterday. Express delivery guaranteed by 10 a.m. Kevin pictured them landing like bombs across town, in David's marble-floored foyer where Janet would sign for the package, at the HR director's desk at Richardson and Associates, in Melissa's mother's pristine kitchen where she'd be having her morning coffee. Kevin spent the morning cleaning the house, a task he rarely bothered with anymore. But tonight needed to be perfect. He wanted Melissa to remember every detail of this evening, wanted the setting burned into her memory like a brand. She came home at 6:15 earlier than usual. She wore a black dress he'd never seen, probably purchased with money from their savings account. Her makeup was flawless, her hair curled just so. She'd made an effort, though not for him. This was her costume for David later, after she'd done her wifely duty of acknowledging their anniversary. "You look beautiful," Kevin said, and meant it. She did look beautiful, like a stranger, but beautiful. "Thanks," she replied absently. She glanced around the clean house, the candles, the set dining table. "You didn't have to do all this. I told you we could just order pizza." "I wanted tonight to be special," he explained. "I made your favorite, chicken marsala." For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance at having to play act longer than planned. "That's really sweet, Kevin," she managed. They sat down to dinner. Kevin had bought good wine, the kind she liked, not the $8 bottles he usually grabbed. Melissa seemed to relax slightly, asking about the shop, even laughing when he told her about a customer who'd tried to convince him that his car's problems were caused by Mercury being in retrograde. "I haven't heard you laugh like that in months," Kevin observed. She paused, wine glass halfway to her lips. "What do you mean?" she asked carefully. "Just that. It's nice to hear you laugh," he answered simply. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Then again, and again. She glanced at it, frowning. "That's weird. David's called 6 times, she muttered. "Work emergency?" Kevin suggested. "Probably. He gets panicked about presentations," she replied dismissively. She started to stand, but Kevin held up a hand. "Before you call him back, I have something for you. Anniversary present." He pulled out the envelope from the sideboard drawer. It was heavier than the others, containing not just the divorce papers, but also printed screenshots of everything. The photos, the receipts, the transcripts. Melissa opened it with the fake smile she'd been wearing all evening. The smile died as she saw the legal heading. Petition for dissolution of marriage. "Kevin, what?" she started. "Keep reading," he instructed calmly. Her face went white as she flipped to the photos. Her and David at the hotel. The receipts. Then the transcript, her own words staring back at her from the page. "The poor bastard has no idea I've been screwing you for 6 months. He's too stupid to figure it out. You recorded me?" Her voice came out as a whisper, then rose to a shriek. "You recorded me in my own house?" "Our house," Kevin corrected. "And yes, I did. Just like you f***ed your boss in our bed while I was at work." She stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "This is illegal! I'll call the police!" "You can't," she screamed. "Michigan's a one-party consent state for recordings in your own home," Kevin interrupted. "My lawyer already checked. But David might have more luck with the legal system. His wife's divorce attorney is apparently very good." The blood drained from Melissa's face. "His wife?" she whispered. "Janet got her package about 6 hours ago," Kevin explained. "So did HR at Richardson and Associates. Turns out they have a very strict policy about supervisors sleeping with subordinates, especially when company credit cards are involved." Melissa's phone began ringing incessantly. She grabbed it, saw David calling again. When she answered, Kevin could hear Janet Richardson's voice, ice cold and crystal clear. "You destroyed my family. I'm going to destroy everything you've built. My lawyer will be in touch," Janet stated. Then the line went dead. Immediately, another call came through. "Melissa's mother. How could you?" Her mother was sobbing. "That poor man. That poor, good man who loved you. And you laugh about him? Mock him for working hard?" "Mom, I can explain." Melissa started desperately. "Don't! Just don't!" Her mother cut her off. "Your father and I need time to process this." More calls. Text messages. Email notifications. Melissa's phone became a lightning storm of incoming judgment. She turned to Kevin, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. "You've ruined everything! My job! My reputation! She cried. "Your relationship with David!" Kevin finished for her, standing slowly. "That was never going to last anyway. You were his midlife crisis, Melissa. He was never leaving Janet. You're not special. You're just convenient. You bastard!" "You had no right!" she screamed. "I had every right," he responded firmly. "You stole from our accounts. You lied for months. You brought him into our bed. You made me a joke to everyone at your office. But the worst part? You made me doubt myself, made me think I wasn't good enough, that my hands were too dirty, my job too blue-collar, my love too simple." He walked to the door, then turned back. "You know what's funny? I am simple. I work hard, I keep my promises, and I love honestly. You're right that I'm predictable. But you forgot something important about predictable people, Melissa." "What?" She spat bitterly. "We're reliable," he answered. "When we say we'll do something, we do it. And when someone breaks us, we don't just fall apart. We methodically dismantle whatever broke us, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but scrap." As Kevin walked to his truck, he could hear Melissa screaming inside. Throwing things, her phone still ringing non-stop. Tomorrow, the locks would be changed. Her clothes would be in boxes on the lawn. The divorce would proceed. David Richardson would lose his job, his wife, half his assets, and his reputation. Melissa would lose everything: her job, her social circle, her family's respect, and any chance of rebuilding in this town. Kevin started his truck, his hands steady on the wheel. In his rearview mirror, he saw the lights of his house, their house, flickering as Melissa moved from room to room, probably looking for more recording devices, trying to figure out how badly she'd been exposed. She'd find out soon enough. By morning, everyone would know exactly who she was and what she'd done. There would be no recovery from this, no spin that could save her. Kevin drove to Tommy's house, where he'd be staying for a few days. As he pulled into the driveway, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Janet Richardson. Thank you. I would have lived a lie forever without knowing. If you ever need anything, any reference, any help, you call me." Kevin deleted the message and turned off his phone. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and paperwork and the slow grind of divorce. But tonight, for the first time in months, he felt something like peace. Melissa had been right about one thing. He was just a simple mechanic. But she'd been wrong about everything else. Sometimes the simple solution was the best one. Sometimes things were broken beyond repair, and sometimes the best fix was to strip everything down to bare metal and start over completely. 6 months later, Kevin's hands were clean as he read the final divorce decree in his office at the shop. September sunshine streamed through windows he'd finally had professionally cleaned. The papers made it official. The house was his, the savings account was his, the business was protected. Melissa had signed everything without contest. What choice did she have? The aftermath had been swift and thorough, like watching dominoes fall in perfect sequence. David Richardson was terminated within 48 hours of HR receiving the envelope. The company couldn't weather the lawsuit risk of a documented supervisor-subordinate affair, especially one involving misuse of company funds. They'd even pursued charges for the falsified client accounts, though David's lawyer managed to plea that down to resignation and restitution. Melissa was let go the same day. Violation of company policy was the official reason, though everyone knew the real story. In a town of 50,000 people, everyone always knew the real story. David's divorce was brutal. Janet Richardson turned out to have a cutthroat attorney and a vindictive streak that made Kevin's revenge look tame. She got the house, primary custody, alimony, and child support that would cripple David for the next decade. He'd moved to Chicago, Kevin heard, working as a middle manager for half his previous salary. Melissa's fall was quieter, but more complete. Her parents paid for her to leave town rather than face the daily humiliation. Her friends, the book club women, the yoga class regulars, cut her off completely. Sarah, who Melissa had claimed needed condoms, was particularly vicious in her public denouncement. "She used my name to cover her affair," Sarah had told everyone. "Who does that to a friend?" The marketing world in their region was surprisingly small and interconnected. Word traveled fast about employees who committed fraud and slept with bosses. Last Kevin heard, Melissa was working retail in Columbus, living in a studio apartment trying to rebuild from nothing. She'd tried reaching out twice. Once through her lawyer, asking for spousal support. Kevin's attorney had laughed at that one. Once through a mutual friend, begging for closure and forgiveness. Kevin declined through the same friend, adding only, "Closure was March 15th. The unexpected blessing came from Janet Richardson's gratitude. She'd sent him a dozen clients in 3 months, all professional women who respected how he'd handled his situation. "You could have gotten violent," one customer said while he changed her oil. "Instead, you got justice." That's rare. Kevin's shop was thriving. He'd hired 2 new mechanics and was considering expanding to a second location. Mike had joked that he should put up a sign, "Honest work by honest people." The house felt different now. Kevin had repainted, bought new furniture, replaced the bed entirely. He'd even started cooking real meals instead of living on takeout and frozen dinners. The oil-stained clothes still hung in his closet, but now they were next to a couple of nicer shirts for the occasional dinner out. He wasn't dating yet. Tommy kept trying to set him up with his sister-in-law, and Maria Santos had hinted that her partner was single, but Kevin wasn't ready. Trust, once shattered that completely, took time to rebuild. On quiet evenings, sitting on his back porch with a beer, Kevin sometimes thought about the 12 years he'd spent with Melissa. Not with anger anymore, just a kind of distant curiosity. How had he missed the signs for so long? How had she hidden her contempt so well? But he didn't dwell on it. The past was like a blown engine. You could spend forever analyzing exactly how each part failed, or you could clear it out and build something better. His phone buzzed. A text from Janet Richardson. My cousin just moved to town. Sweet girl, teacher, just divorced. Want her number? Kevin smiled and typed back, thanks, but not yet. When you're ready then, she replied. You're one of the good ones, Kevin. He set the phone aside and looked at his hands. Still calloused, still marked with the faint, permanent stains of honest work. Melissa had been disgusted by these hands, embarrassed by what they represented, but they were capable hands, fixing hands, building hands. A car pulled into the shop's lot, a newer model Honda with a rattling sound that probably meant a loose heat shield. Simple fix. 20 minutes, maybe 30. Kevin stood, folding the divorce papers and filing them away. The past was settled, documented, and done. The future was uncertain, but his own. As he walked out to greet the customer, Kevin caught his reflection in the office window. Just a mechanic in coveralls, ready to solve someone's problem. Nothing special, nothing fancy, but solid, reliable, real. The customer turned out to be a woman about his age, looking frazzled. It's making this awful noise, she explained nervously. I don't know anything about cars. That's what I'm here for, Kevin responded reassuringly. Let's take a look and figure out exactly what's wrong. She smiled, a genuine smile, not the practiced kind Melissa had perfected. Thank you. It's nice to find someone trustworthy, she said gratefully. Kevin popped the hood, already diagnosing the issue. Trust is earned, he replied thoughtfully. But I promise you this, I'll only fix what's actually broken. It was a simple promise, but he meant it. In his shop, in his life, and whatever came next, fix what's broken, build what's worth building, and know the difference between the two. The sun was warm on his back as he worked, and for the first time in a long time, Kevin Miller felt exactly where he was supposed to be. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.